Hi guys, Nishant here. In this tutorial, we are going to take a look at different CSS in HTML. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. CSS describe how HTML elements are to be displayed as web page. It can control the layout of multiple web pages all at once. CSS can be added to HTML elements in three ways: inline, external, and internal. I've already created three files named inline, internal, and external. So let's start with inline CSS. So what is inline CSS? An inline CSS is used to apply a unique style to a single HTML element. An inline CSS uses the style attribute of a HTML element. So now let's start. First we are going to write HTML syntax. Inside the title I am going to write inline CSS. Inside body I am going to give header using h1 tag. Inside the header I am going to write this is my text. So first let's save this and open the folder where you save the file. Now open the file in your web browser. So this is my result. So let's use CSS to modify it. To use inline CSS we are going to write style in the starting tag of header. So this style here is an attribute, and whatever we write inside this tag is the property of style attribute. So first we are going to write color property, and inside color we are going to give it red. Each property is separated using semicolon. So semicolon. Now let's save it and take a look at our result. So refresh it. See, the text is now red. So what this does is the CSS color property defines the text color to be used. So now next thing is font size. So I am giving the font size 70 semicolon. Save it and then just refresh it. As you can see, the text is now bigger. So what font size does is it defines the text size to be used. Here the text size is 70 pixels. Next we are going to take a look at text align. So that's the next property, text align. Inside the text align I am going to write center semicolon. So text align defines the horizontal text alignment for an HTML element. So let's save it, refresh the page again. As you can see, the text is now in the center of the web page. So the next property we are going to take a look at is border. So that's border. Inside border I am going to write 1 pixel solid black and semicolon. So that's it. So first let's save it and refresh the page. As you can see, there's a border surrounding the text. So what this does is the CSS border property defines a border around the HTML element you specify. Here we have written it for the text, that's why it has surrounded the text. So now what we are going to use is margin. Right here, margin. I am going to write 70 pixels semicolon. Now let's save it and view our result. As you can see, this here is the margin. So this here will be 70 pixels. So what margin property does is margin property defines a margin or a space outside the border. So this here is 70 pixels space from the border. So the next property we are going to use is padding. This here, padding. And in padding I'm going to give 20 pixels semicolon. So let's save it, then refresh the page. So as you can see, the CSS padding property defines a padding or a space between text and the border. So as you can see, there is now a space between text and the border. So that's all for inline CSS, and we are going to use all of this property in internal and external CSS. So now let's start with internal CSS. So what is internal CSS? An internal CSS is used to define a style for a single HTML page. An internal CSS is defined in the head section of the HTML page within a style element. So let's check it out. So first, again, HTML syntax. Inside the title, I'm going to write internal CSS. Now again, I'm going to do the same thing. Inside the body, I'm going to write h1 tag. I'm also again giving the same text. This is my text. So first, let's save it, and open the folder where you save it. This here. Open it in the web browser. So this is my result. So now let's use CSS as internal CSS. So for that, we have to give style tag inside the head section. So for that, we are going to give style tag. Here we don't need any type of text or CSS. So style tag. So inside style tag, we have to mention the element which we want to edit. So here you have to mention it as h1. This, as you can see, when I select this, it automatically gives me that this element is selected. So I have selected h1. Now curly braces. Now in this section we are going to write our same code what we want to write. So I'll just copy the whole style text. So let's see what happens. So copy, and I'm just going to paste it here. So color is red, so the text color would be red. The font size is 70 pixels. Text alignment will be center. Border is 1 pixel and it's solid black. Margin here is 70 pixel. The padding here is 20 pixels. So it is same as inline CSS. So the output should also be the same as inline CSS. So let's save it and check it out. So refreshing it, it gives me the same result. As you can see, we get the same result in both the files. So that's all for internal CSS. So what is external CSS? So let's take a look at external CSS. An external style sheet is used to define the style for many HTML pages. With an external style sheet, you can change the look of an entire website by changing only one file. To use an external style sheet, we have to add a link in the head section of the HTML page. So how is that done? So let's first write HTML syntax. Inside title, I'm going to write external CSS. Again, in the body section, I'm going to write a header using h1 tag. Inside the header, I'm going to write this is my text. So let's save this file. Open the folder where you save it right here and open it. So right now this is my result, and I'm going to change it like this. So let's do that. So how to do that? So here inside the head section, we are going to give a link. This is the syntax for link. This is the reference. So this is a style sheet. We don't need here any type, and this here will be the reference. So here I'm going to write it as external style.css. That is the name of this file that I've already created. It's external style.css. Do not forget that the reference that you give here should be the same as the file name. So that's it. Let's save this, and inside this file we are going to write our code. So as we did in the internal CSS, we wrote style tag, but we here don't need any style tag. Here we are just going to write it like h1 and curly braces, and inside this we are going to write our properties. So I'm just going to copy all of the same things inside this. Let's save it and let's just check out the result. As you can see, it is same as inline and internal CSS. But what is the difference here is we did not use any style tag for external. We just gave the reference of this file external style.css to the main file external css.html. We have linked up CSS file to an HTML page. So that's how the styling is done in external.css file. So that's all for cascading style sheets. Thank you for watching this video.